This is Mainstream Metaphysics with your host, Nick Newmont.
Oh, the weather outside is front. Oh, hi. I'm Nick Newmont. Welcome to Mainstream Metaphysics. I guarantee you that in the 8 seconds that I was starting to sing, my wife is going to lose her mind that I was actually starting to sing, because I don't sing in public. And as I've said about myself many times, I can't carry a tune in a dump truck. So anyway, hi everyone. It's December 17th. Welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. How are you in regards to the holidays? Christmas is a week from tomorrow. Hanukkah and Kwanzaa are December 26th. A lot going on. Are you ready or not? Some people are, some people aren't. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to a few days off. Since the Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve follow on Tuesdays, there definitely won't be any shows that night. Even if I wanted to, Ed, our director and producer, said, no way. Anyway, yes, he'll be in Chicago. And you talk about the weather being frightful. God, Windy City in December. Yeah, okay. And they don't have dome stadiums in Chicago. Oh, my God. So anyway, I wish you all great holidays. And I have a feeling that somewhere in between, Audrey and I will do our year-end show of gratitude and predictions for the coming year. So stay tuned. We'll announce it. Now, in terms of announcements, if you haven't been watching Facebook, Audrey's book has been released, The Mind Trip Game. And if you go on to Amazon and you type in The Mind Trip Game and you see the cover where it looks like a road, okay? I'm not going to mess around with it too much now and try to bring it up. But it is out, and she is thrilled. And I appreciate if you would go on to Amazon. I think it's $27.99 or something like that, and order that book, because she is absolutely thrilled, and I'm thrilled for her. And she joins me in that guy back there, numerology, and getting her on a book tour. In fact, what's really cool on top of it is that she was contacted by the LA Times Book Fair, which is next spring, and that is huge. And she was invited to be a presenter there and be featured. So, big, as Audrey likes to say, big kudos to her. So as we whirl around with another, 14 days left in the year, the new year is upon us, and anticipating a lot of changes. And my guest that we're going to bring on in a second, we're going to touch on some of those things that we see in a light, in a fun, in a spiritual way. So if we can bring on, I have to tell you, I joke about her being my little sister spiritually, because our lives have paralleled each other in ways that, of course, we didn't know each other until a few years ago, but there's so many similarities in our lives. And she's so much fun to have. Catherine Glass, thank you for staying up on the East Coast and being with me on the show. How are you?
I'm great, Nick. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you for doing
Getting all
this.
Christmased up.
Right? In the mood, right?
In the mood, yeah. I'm into Christmas carols. They're corny. I like them. I find them uplifting. They keep me in a happy mood,
Oh my
mostly.
goodness, yes. I'm like you. I'm that little kid still. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I decorate. I do all that. I love Christmas. We don't put gifts out until
No.
you know. I have to tell you honestly, even though my daughters are the ones that close, I was lived out of our house, for years. But with Serena and Milena being in their 20s, there are still presents that are written
Oh
to
yeah.
whoever from Santa,
Yep. We do Santa and stockings and Santa. Yeah, we do it all.
right?
Yep.
Well, good for
Sorry,
you.
I kicked the
Good.
table.
Given where you are in Massachusetts, are you
Mhm.
expecting a white Christmas or a wet Christmas?
Probably wet or sunny and dry. It really doesn't start snowing here anymore. It used to years ago, but not anymore in December. It's more February is when the snow really hits.
Yeah,
We did
yeah.
have a spitting the other day, a little dusting, but not much.
Sure, sure. Well, parts of the country, me being a football fan, I mean, recently Buffalo got a ton of snow. A couple weeks ago, Cleveland got a ton because the games were on, so you could see the blizzard, and
Yeah,
I do mean
yeah.
blizzard, coming down. So, I mean, it's
Well, today was close to 60 here. So,
in Massachusetts, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You never
right.
know.
And we've had chilly mornings here, and when I say chilly, I don't mean California chilly. I mean mornings when I'd leave for work, it's 42 degrees. You know,
Wow.
that is chilly no matter where you live. It's not in the teens.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
today it ended up being 72. Supposed to be like Thursday, 78. Anyway,
Nice.
welcome to the weather report with Catherine and Nick. Okay. So,
When in doubt, talk about the weather.
right. The lowest form of conversation. Oh my. There's
Elevator
a,
talk.
one of the things that I mentioned to you, and there's a lot of things we want to talk about tonight, is that I told you recently I was traveling and I was sitting in the airport because there was a delay and I was looking
Mhm.
at people's auras. And
Mm.
I
That's always
have,
fun.
right? That's a little, I guess that's legal. You can peer into someone's aura. That's,
Oh, yeah.
I'm a peeping Nick, on a on a metaphysical level. You on a metaphysical level. Like for instance, okay, here we go with auras. So when my students are learning how to feel an aura, I've told them, I said, go in when you get information, then come back out. There's no etheric groping allowed. Okay? Get your look at Catherine. Well, I make light of it because if a person has some kind of problem or an affliction, and when you are sensitive enough to feel the disturbance in the aura, believe it or not, you're pushing on that. And once you
Yeah.
sense, da da da, da got it, pull your hand out because you can be displacing the aura that actually could be painful for them mentally, emotionally, or even physically.
Well, it's
So
poking like poking a wound.
yes, yes,
Hmm.
it is. And if it's something that is trying to heal, that at this point, we're picking scabs. So, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
you studied this very deeply. I have. And
Hmm.
I think that sometimes I bring levity into the education so people
Oh,
can
yeah.
lighten their energy up and get it. And I do make jokes at times. So they're like, oh, okay. Because sometimes students come in so serious. And when they're too serious, their senses are not working correctly. Okay. They tighten up
Yeah.
too much. But anyway, so the thing about that I want to run past you is what I said to you on the phone yesterday is that have you ever looked at people and their auras and just had a sense that, oh, something not good is going on there? Now, if that was going on with someone on a plane, let me finish that thought, then I'm going to turn it over to you for a little bit. If I really thought someone was having that kind of problem, I would not get on that plane. But I've never had that happen. Someone might be in a
Hmm.
bad mood, but I've never looked at an aura and said, I'm not getting on a plane with that person
Right.
to this point.
Well, that's dramatic. Um, you know, you
Very,
can see people that are bummed out or angry or clearly in a
yeah,
dark, lower frequency in their consciousness or their thought form for that day or their life, depending on how much you want to read.
sure.
But on the average, you know, you don't see malintended people walking around getting on airplanes every day. So that would be an unusual thing. Now, there are people who have been in airports and on airplanes when there was an actual terrorist there, and nobody picked up on that till they got in there. But,
Oh, and
you
by the way,
know,
if I've misled you, I didn't mean a terrorist. What I meant
oh,
was if it was in their fate that it was their time.
that reading. Yeah,
That's what I
that,
meant.
no, that's different. I thought you meant like a dark energy of someone
No,
who's
no, no,
got
no,
bad
no,
intention or
no.
gonna, try to do something in the plane. Yeah, no, yeah, okay. So so I've seen people where they looked gray and kind of thought, what's the contract there for them with their lifespan? There's like a grayness that can come into the aura. And I have a friend, actually, a colleague who's clairvoyant, and she had an experience where she talked to a woman whose husband died. And the earlier that morning, she said to herself, he's going to die. Like it just came over her
Sure,
when she
sure.
looked at him and she said his aura was gray. Um, so it's either you can see illness or potential, demise.
Right, right, right. I told you the story about how I was working with this young woman who was coming to me. She was one of the rehabs was sending her to me, and her
Hmm.
aura, what she saw as I looked through her third eye was all dark, and I told them not to release her because I could tell what she was thinking and where her mind was. And as I told you on the phone, they did release her and found out some weeks later that she created her demise.
Hmm.
So sometimes when people see things like that, or in this case wasn't seeing anything, they have deemed for themselves that it's time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of the belief, Nick, that we're given like five exit points during a course of a lifetime. The soul is, and the higher self knows about it. And we either choose to take them or we don't. Like we decide not to go to that New Year's Eve party. On a conscious level, we decide, oh, we're tired, or it's too much
Right,
traffic, I don't want to deal with it. But actually, there was a bad accident, and you would have been taken out had you gone to that party
right,
that night.
right,
So is that something the higher self knew and decided, no, I don't want to exit now, I'm going to stay? Was it karma? Was it, I don't
right.
know.
Well, what you just said about there's like five different time periods, elaborate on that. That's really fascinating. You and I have never
Well,
ever talked about that before.
this so that as I have heard it and have heard it from the other side when I've communicated with some, beings through channeling and stuff, that we are given an average of five. It may not be five for everybody, just like we're all given one major spirit guide and we have different guides that come and go throughout our life as we change our directions or we become a doctor or we become a parent. You might have a guide shift, but you have usually one main guide through your life and guardian
Sure.
angels and stuff like that. So, exit points, a soul is given a few opportunities to bail earlier than maybe they had planned along the line because we are given free will to a degree in this lifetime. And some of those exit points could be a suicide decision or a plane crash or something that you decided to do, to take.
Right, right. In in numerology and the way I do it, there are key points that are called rebirth cycles, and everybody's got a different amount of them. And what I
Hmm.
found is that when you're in that cycle, that it's not a good time to do risky things. And when I was writing my book, and in fact, there is a whole chapter on rebirth cycles in there and how to figure that a lot of extremely famous people met their demise in a rebirth cycle. and it's a fascinating thing. And so there is something to that, which is the way you were saying it in an etheric way. It is quantifiable too, through calculations as to when those times can be.
Well, yeah, my sister passed away when she was 17. She got a virus and it killed her in 3 days. It was the Hong Kong flu or something, but I think it might have been meningitis when I described what happened to her physically to certain medical people. They say that sounded like meningitis. But anyway,
Can I
in
ask you a
her
question?
birth- Yeah.
Within the numerology, what year was your sister born? Okay.
I don't know. So she died in 69, so she was 17, 18, 69, 59. I think 52 or 51 she was born.
Okay.
Anyway, Saturn was sitting in her birth chart. She had Saturn something in the sixth house or eighth house. I remember my mother, because my mom was an astrologer, she pointed out that there was a thing in her chart that indicated through Saturn and I think it was health, sixth house, and something about the way the planets were, what's the relationship thing? The way they were related. She said
Right,
that
right.
that was her exit point. After the fact, she noticed it. She did her birth chart, looked at it after she had passed, and saw the death in the chart.
If she was born in 1952, her rebirth cycles would have been 1961 and 1970. So,
She died in 69,
so she was really close on that.
July
Yeah,
of 69. Yeah.
it's fascinating. You're an incredible medium, and and when I've been to your galleries and seen you work, I mean, it's really amazing. How you get in touch with people. And I have a question for you, and I've never asked you this: when you've talked to a spirit, somebody that's a crossed over relative, did you ever get the indication from them? Did they ever say that? That they did something and it really shouldn't have been their time? Did they ever admit anything to you that would have been some kind of helpful information for their surviving family members?
Yeah, they did something and it shouldn't have been their time. No, I've never heard that. I've always heard that it was exactly the right time for them. Or I realized if they took their own life, sometimes they'll say, I knew as soon as I had done it and realized that I had crossed and couldn't come back, that I might have been hasty or I could have maybe tried something different. However, it's not from guilt. There's no experience of
Right.
guilt once you've crossed.
Absolutely.
Guilt doesn't exist there.
Right.
So there's peace no matter what, but there can be a healing period where that soul is sort of healed or cocooned or educated about the choices they just made. And they say, oh, I see, I affected this that way by doing that choice I could have done differently. But I've never heard it wasn't my time.
Yeah, interesting. Because sometimes I've heard when you have talked to people, when I've attended your audiences, some of the things that the spirits will admit to surviving family members. And it's like pieces of information that were missing that the survivors...
Yeah, they may talk about having been depressed and the family didn't know, or things like that when they were alive, but they're no longer depressed there.
Well, and it's amazing too. Like you were one of the first people I let know, some weeks ago when I had that hypnosis session, which culminated me having a dream, which was really an appearance by my father, and the interaction that I had with him. And I remember, in that interaction, because it was so lucid, it wasn't murky like a dream. And I would remember asking him, "What's it like over there?"
Yeah, people ask me a lot, what are they doing? What are my loved ones doing? I get lots of different scenarios and answers, but they can be very busy over there. There's a lot to do. There's a lot for the soul to continue learning and evolving through, or experiences that they didn't get to fulfill on Earth. My mother did some automatic writing after my sister crossed, and I found it. I still have it. And she was talking to her father and her daughter in heaven at the time, and she said, "What is this about 1,000 years or something until the soul can come back. And my sister said, no, I'm finishing the life, but I'm finishing. She died so young at 17. I'm finishing out my soul's karma for this lifetime, or something like that.
Sure.
And so she was saying she was closer to the earth plane than some souls that go farther and for longer, or something like that. And she said, we're both here and there. Like there's a little bit of my consciousness still on earth in some way, or connected to the earth plane. And my consciousness is also expanded and elsewhere in spirit. I wish I had it in front of me because I'm not being really clear, but it was
Sure.
fascinating what the information she was giving.
Catherine, in all the studies that, and you studied Barbara Brennan's material and some incredible teachers, and like I've too, did you, and if the answer is no, I'll change the topic, but in the realms that you work in, I mean, a lot of people, we talk about spirits in the astral plane, and then, of course, higher spirits are in the causal plane. But have you ever worked in the monadic plane?
Oh, the monad. No,
Yeah.
not since, just some of Diana Cooper's work I've done with, her meditations and stuff. But I haven't gone in as a healer consciously to work on that level, no.
Okay. Those are really high-level spirits because the word monad means unity, So it's like you're getting pretty...
I've definitely felt, though, I have felt vibes that were like so intense and moving and so expansive and like, oh my God, I'm in a zone here that's like godly, it's just like, the angels singing and you're just so lit up and full of love. I have
Right.
felt that presence in just a regular, what I call an average energy healing. But I go all over the place in those healings because I know that I'm being guided.
Right. And when you trust your guides, and they're there on so many different levels, you're in good hands. You really
Yeah,
are.
I'm just the facilitator, really, I'm not doing the healing.
Right. I know. We're conduits for it.
Exactly.
We just have to keep our channels clear. One of the topics that you and I talked about, and this is also where I'm going to update my viewing audience too. It has to do with when we're doing some form of healing, reading, mediumship, that people, the seeker, really needs to be honest with us. And I had a situation recently where honesty or information was lacking.
You mean testing you?
No, it was a omission of information. Okay, I wasn't being tested. It was
Okay.
They just elected to not tell me. And this is, for my viewing audience, this is that situation that I shared several weeks ago about the individual in California with the missing lottery ticket. All right? And this is of national headlines. And come to find out, because I was not able to find the missing ticket, even though I described so many things about their situations, and I'll just use the word situations that were so accurate, and I really did turn on my clairvoyance to the best of my ability. I mean, it was like I was able to see through his clothes and describe what he had on him, okay? And so here's what happened. Here's where the viewing audience gets updated, because I had a lot of people reach out very compassionately, and thank you so much, because I did feel badly that that ticket wasn't found. Fast forward up until to about December the 8th, so yes, about 9 days ago, I see this news item before I was going to bed on the local news. Lottery winner claims is suing for the missing lottery ticket. And I have to tell you, and I did one of these. Audrey's already in bed. I'm in our den off the bedroom. I'm like, wait a minute. What did I just read here? Okay. And when I figured out what was going on, that there evidently was one ticket by this individual that was claimed and another ticket that he lost. I would tell you something, Catherine, I did not sleep well that night. I was not happy because part of it is that when this individual was in my office with another family member, he was upset, and I said, how much money are we talking here? And he said a number, and I knew that he was not being truthful with me. I knew that number was much higher than what he was admitting to. And after he left, I called the other family member and said, that's not the truth. Okay? The other family member admitted, yes, it's so much more, so on and so forth. And so I reached out to the other family member when I saw that news item the next day and basically said, okay, what's going on here? Okay. And I said these words, I feel deceived. And the family member says, oh, don't feel like that. And I said, why not? That's how I feel. I said, at no point did you tell me that there was a ticket that was already claimed. I kept seeing a winning ticket. Okay, that winning ticket was in
What was
possession.
his question? I'm really confused here, Nick. I don't understand. There was a winner, and he said he had a ticket, and it got lost. I'm not sure what you're saying.
He bought two identical tickets. Okay. Okay. Back to back for some reason. The same day, paid for one, played the same numbers, and paid for it. Turned one in, and then seemed to come to realize at some point that the other ticket was missing. And I was called to help find it with a couple weeks before the expiration date on the ticket.
But what does it matter if the second one is missing? If you already played one and it's the same numbers, what does it matter if he lost the other ticket? He was testing you. He was trying to see if you could find the ticket.
Well, when someone wins a lot of money, it's like 50% of that is better than 100% of nothing. And I have my own opinions, which I don't want to editorialize on it. But the point is that if they had been honest with me, I would have looked at it with another level of this. Okay?
Okay, but I'm still curious what his motivation was to come into you about that.
Because he was torturing himself with the fact that he lost one of the tickets. Instead of focusing on he did collect this much, and it's a chunk, okay, he was upset over the fact that he lost this one.
But that one wouldn't have won. I'm really
yes,
confused.
It did win. It was a winner.
Then why didn't he get all the winnings?
Because you have to have, when you claim a lottery prize, you physically have to have the ticket. You can't say I played those numbers.
Oh, I see.
You have to have that orange and white ticket.
To prove that it's yours.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I don't play the lottery much.
Right. No, I get it. So this was a case. My point is, and this has happened before, and then of course I want you to weigh in on this, that if people don't, if they're not honest about the situation or the circumstance, then why are they coming to us? Because it's kind of divisive when they do that.
Who knows why people do anything they do? I just know if I'm reading, I just read and I give what I get, and usually it's very accurate or close to accurate. And if it doesn't address something they're withholding, I either saw it or didn't see it, or you're right. It could be confusing for the psychic because you know what you're seeing.
Yes.
But, I just kind of let it go. And unless I hear back from them, if it was really eating away at me, something like that, I might pursue it the way you did. I'm not sure.
Well, I have witnesses, including my wife, that through that time frame, I kept saying, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with this, and I know it. They're not telling me the whole thing. Our friend Becca here, I told her that several times. I
Yeah.
know there's something wrong. And that's where, for me as a psychic, and my reputation is that I'm a good psychic, was that
Right.
I was sensing that there was something in play that wasn't being presented.
And you didn't say that. See, I have confronted people during a reading and I've said, you know, are you being straight with me? I'm sensing something's off here. I have actually said that to them in the
Yeah.
moment and called them and straightened the reading out. That I've done. When I just feel really off, I'll say, I can't help you if you don't ABC,
Right. Right.
you know?
Right.
So be direct and honest. If I feel like I'm being challenged in some way that's under integrity or something, I'll just right out there put it on the table.
Right. Well, in that case, there were things I sensed that I did bring up. And so there was some information that was brought. But even when I talked to the other family member and was saying, there's something here I'm not being told, I can tell there's something else, that
Okay,
family
so
member didn't.
you're talking about ethics. There's ethics on both sides, right? There
Oh my
need to be
God,
ethics,
yes.
ethics by the psychic, and there need to be ethics for the person who's being read.
Right.
And there are
Right.
even books written on how to get and receive a good reading.
Right.
If you're going to go
Right.
in to see a psychic or a medium, how to get the best reading.
Right. And just be open and honest. I mean, they expect us to be open and honest, and we are.
And Nick, I also tell my clients, when they sit down and I say, okay, in my intake form, when they sign up with me, there's a question that says, name 3 areas that you would like Catherine to look at. Come prepared with 3 general areas like career, love, and, location, or spiritual growth, anxiety, whatever it is they want me to look at. Because I say to them, look, I can sit here and read for you, and I will cast a broad psychic net, and I will get lots of random information about you, and a lot of it you may already know and be able to validate and say, yes, but that's not what I want to know. So I explain to them, if you just say, I don't know, just read me, then they're going to get a broad reading because you're casting a broad psychic net.
Yes.
And you can even
Yes.
come in and say, there's sadness. You've been depressed for a certain amount of time. I can tell them, something's shifting for you. I can go a little into the future. But if they are specific and they'll say, look at this situation or look at that relationship, then I can really give them clear, succinct reading because I'm zoning in on that, line of information.
Sure.
Rather than
sure.
just sort of feeling, well, as a child, you were very creative and you were imaginative and you saw fairies or whatever, It's like
Right. Yeah, exactly.
they need to be specific with their intention,
Yeah, definitely.
I think. Yeah.
No, they do. They need to have an intention. Sometimes when it drifts into where sometimes I do cards for people, I'll do what we call a general spread, but then it's like, okay, but what do you really want to ask about here? And
Yeah.
go into that really in
Yeah.
depth.
I don't do cards. I don't use tools when I read. For me, they slow me down. I use them for myself and I play with them at home, but I don't use them in professional setting. Just for me, it just slows me down. I can't do it. I just rather get the information.
Well, once you get rolling, whether it's with cards or an astrology chart, I'll
You're
get to
just
the-
reading.
Yeah, I'm just reading at that point.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sort of a launching pad, but once from there,
Exactly. It's a
it just
tool.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like when we do
I would
energy-
use it for radio shows. Like if I had 3 minutes to do a reading, I would jump off a card,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we do energy work, it's all into their aura, and
Yeah, let's talk about that.
yep. So, yes, how do you read an aura? What do you get? What do you see? What do you feel?
Oh my gosh. Well, it happens so all at once, so fast at this stage. I remember when I was learning, we did hands. We use the hands a lot, but you don't walk around in your day doing this out in public, I remember my teacher said, just don't look weird, on the street or the bus, It's just so. But we have the right. Look, it's our divine right to see information, and it's okay to look at other people's energy and to really use that third eye, that clairvoyance. If you're a psychic in training or a professional or just a very understand your gift and know that you're psychic, you have every right to have that gift. You're not invading their space. you just don't walk up to them and start reading them, give them a reading without
Sure.
permission or asking. But it's okay to see, because that's information for your benefit as well. Is this
Right.
safe? Is this not safe? Is this someone I can trust? Is this not? So looking and reading auras, and you just use, it comes so fast. I use all the clairs. It's like
Right.
knowing. And knowing, when people say, I just know, it's claircognizant, you're actually technique wise, or technically, you're using your crown, your brow, your throat, your ears. Your clairaudience comes through the throat, and your solar plexus. You're using all of them so fast at once that it feels like, I don't know how I know, I just know.
Right. Yeah, well said.
That person has darkness in their aura, or that person is very spiritual and has all this purple around them.
Right.
And I don't see purple like you see this thing behind me. I don't see it with my physical eyes. Some people can see the aura like that. I know it. I see it, with my clairvoyance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you?
And you get a vibe. You can feel, people.
Given that you've gone through Barbara Brennan's schooling,
Mm-hmm.
do you just look at the aura, or do you actually differentiate the 7 etheric layers?
Oh, well, if I want to sit there and take time, absolutely. That's the best tool, and you look
Right.
at the fourth chakra on the sixth layer of the field, for example. I mean, you're trained to break down all 7 chakras on all 7 layers of the field. And that's where it gets interesting. So when I teach, I explain that to my students, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. So all the way out to here, and 7 chakras this way,
Yep.
and that's just what we're working with. There's tons of chakras off the body.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something about that, the aura and reading. It'll come back to me. I don't know. Go ahead.
No, it's like in when I get a level up of teaching, I actually have a grid of frequencies that is, the chakras this way, layers this way, and frequencies that go with that adds to the study of the 7 etheric layers.
It's all so fascinating. And
Oh my God,
when
yeah.
you're in there actually working, I love just learning all the technology, restructuring chakra, and I would go in there with the intent to do that, or healing an etheric organ, for example. I mean, Barbara built me an etheric spleen, because I don't have a spleen, and I swear to God, it's helped me in my life. But
Right.
once I'm in there doing the work, Nick, I'm like so expanded. It's coming through my hands, and I'm working so quickly and so fast. I don't slow it down. I can roll back in time and know what I did if I want to go back and revisit the healing. I mean, I know
Right.
basically I'm clearing something, I'm restructuring something, I'm healing an organ, or I'm doing psychic surgery. That's intentional. Yet there's this quality or this experience. Maybe it's because mediumistic, but I feel very multidimensional myself while I'm working. So I was always impressed that Barbara could demonstrate for us and teach while she was demonstrating. So it's like when you see a cooking show and they're cooking and they're telling you what they're doing verbally while they're doing it. That I've never slowed it down, except in very basic level teaching students on the first, beginning level. I give them the instruction. I talk very slowly, and we go through it step by step. But when I'm actually in a healing session, it's like channeling. It just comes so fast for me that I don't break it down.
Right. Right.
But I have enough training to know I'm within a structure that's safe, and I know what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I do. I do. And it's funny that when I'm teaching and doing a demo, that what you described with Barbara, I do that. So I'm doing the work and that same thing, which is that's an interesting. It's an interesting mind split to experience that.
Exactly.
Because it's a dual consciousness that's very hard to articulate to people. It's like you're in more than one place at the same time. Mm-hmm. And when
I do it with mediumship, though. Mediumship, I can tell you what I'm doing while I'm doing mediumship.
Mm-hmm.
But with healing, I haven't done that yet. I haven't talked someone through an entire intricate. Now I'm restructuring the 7th layer and the healing of the screen, the ripped whatever lines of light. I haven't done that.
It's like, but you're right, and I've witnessed you work doing the mediumship, that you are in a duality. When
Yeah.
you get beyond, when a person gets beyond the fourth dimension, which is time, and you enter into the fifth dimension, you're defeating time, and you're in a multi-dimensional experience, and you're not bound by gravity, laws, physical boundaries,
No,
any of
you're in
that.
the etheric plane and on. Yeah.
In the way that I was taught way back is to in doing that work to engineer into the fifth dimension, we call in, their soul codes, and we call in Merkabas. I call the seraphim, the Ophanim, the cherubim to place a golden light Merkaba around Catherine and around myself, around this room and around this building, keeping us protected at all times. And everything just goes, phew,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And that's
It
why,
like amps it up.
right. And so you get to the end of the session and the client thinks about 20 minutes have passed and it's an hour and a half because you can't tell time in the fifth dimension and beyond.
Yes. Fascinating.
God.
Love it. It's like, who needs mushrooms,
Oh my God! I said it's a legal high to do
totally.
that. Now, when it comes to time, this was on my mind, and this is an interesting segue. All right, so we are coming up on Earth to the end of the year. Okay, and so there's this seam, so to speak, that goes between a year, okay, which is a number, into another year. All right, but what really changes? That's a question, because we're dealing with spirits. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not bound by time. So
No.
what are we doing to ourselves? Help me here, Catherine.
What are we doing to ourselves? Well, we're still evolving, Nick. We're still very locked in time and aware of time. And until we can raise our frequency to the understanding and the awareness to the point where we are consciously experiencing no time. For eons we've been using substances or herbs or alternate things or meditation. I mean, there are yogis that can
Right.
go into the timeless space, with
Sure.
their meditation, but that takes a long time to develop. You don't just do that overnight,
Right. No,
you know.
yeah.
And our culture, our level of humanity wants a quick fix. They don't want to do the work that goes into that. And at the same time, speaking of time, it just takes a blip of a moment to shift consciousness and dimension if we could allow ourselves to do that.
Well, now that you've said that, okay, and yes, as therapists, we know that a lot of people don't want to do the work. They want microwave healings. Wave the magic wand, make it better. It just doesn't work like that. But, we are experiencing glitches or blips in time, okay? You and I talked about this for a little bit on the phone. How do we explain that where it's kind of, what just happened there?
Well,
Something-
what about timeline jumping? Jumping a timeline.
Yes. Yes, and that's
Right?
done with choices.
Choices and consciousness and your thought and your where is your focus?
Right.
I choose to, and to me personally, it feels like the work I've done personally with the etheric plane communication. So you're doing a hypnotherapy session, you're either back in time or going forward in time, or you're talking to someone on the etheric plane through a healing intention. My father abused me and I'm going to go make it right and talk to him, that kind of
Right,
thing.
right,
Or a
right.
past life reincarnation experience where you're there, you're living it, you're breathing it, you're this little boy in Greece or whatever you're experiencing. It's real. You've jumped a timeline. You've just gone to a different state of consciousness,
Right.
into a different place in existence. So it is existing simultaneously because it's happening right there in your experience while you are still Catherine. So that's a timeline jump. And you can do the same thing with intention. Like right now, I can decide I'm living a parallel life with my intention. I'm living in, Hawaii, and I have my best friends with me, and I have unlimited amount of money and abundance to support me, and I could really create that reality if I were focused enough on
Sure.
it in that moment of on the etheric plane. So I see that as setting a template, like you've set a blueprint.
Right.
Now, when does it catch up to reality in the physical 3D, 4D world? That's up for grabs until we
Sure.
can really just be in fifth dimension all the time and jump and be there. Like Apple, boom, Apple appears.
Right.
You know?
Right. You know that of all the different movies that have been made that have to do with time and time travel and all that, the one that you just made me think of a moment ago was Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeve and I believe Jane Seymour. And he had gave himself a mindset to go back in time. You know, if folks, if you haven't seen the movie Somewhere in Time, it's actually a very beautiful movie. It's more of a love story, you know, but it's like, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it, but it's really cool as to how that goes. As we move forward and the number that we honor goes from 2024 to 2025, it is quantified as a theme, going from an 8 to a 9, so there's some kind of completion.
Completion, yeah.
Well, we might as well, in the time that we have remaining in the show, what sense do you get about the year ahead? And not exactly predicting global outcomes, because neither one of us tend to be what's called a tabloid psychic. But
Well, I'm clairaudient, so the first thing I hear is shake, rattle, and roll. Shake, shake, rattle, and roll. Which is a song I think from the 50s. I wasn't
It
even
is.
born yet, but I'm hearing shake, rattle, and roll. So I think it's going to be a very exciting time, a very uplifting time in some ways. And for those of us that are interested in awakening and being conscious as possible about the new birth and new earth that's coming, it'll be exciting and scary, but we can see the good in the darkness, you know? In the
Right.
dark times, those that are light workers and those that are here to help the planet evolve and grow and heal, they can see the good in the dark that is experienced. And my information is that it's almost like two train tracks. There's going to be some kind of not division. I don't want to call it division that's consciously created. It's more like two realities experienced in a space.
Yeah, and I
So
agree with you on that. You know,
people jumping timelines or creating their
Right.
reality through a frequency that they're holding, which
Well,
is love, you know.
there's two different things that trends of thought. I've got one, which is very easy, and I think it's a good twist on words. That when you were talking about light, and I think that when we say we make light of something, it's kind of like we're making fun of it. But I think that if we can update that into our times now to make light of a situation, it's like, let's put light into it. Let's lighten it up, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when you said, remember, you're in Massachusetts, and we're sitting here
Right.
on the West Coast. So I guarantee you, a lot of my viewers, when you said shake, rattle, and roll in California, the West Coast, going,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
crap, is she seeing an earthquake? No,
Oh.
that's not what she meant. That's not what she meant.
I meant change. I meant change for the highest good.
Yep. And
Yeah.
What else are you seeing in 2025?
I'm hearing. I hear first and then see. I'm hearing harmony, and that can be on many levels. People harmonizing more with themselves and their own truth and their higher consciousness. I'm seeing some old paradigms dying and some new beliefs emerging, new ways of doing things. I think there's going to be a lot more earth consciousness coming in, you know, people learning to live on the land, or like my son, for example, is teaching nature connection. It's all he cares about. He's 28, he lives in Portugal. He has no clue what's going on really politically in the States at all. He lives, you know, in a caravan thing on the land, and he knows how to make fire and forage for food and do all this stuff out of a passion, not out of fear. It's just a passion he has. And there are souls on this earth in that age group that are very passionate about creating communities that know how to come back to the earth. And that's going to be seeds planted that's regenerating the earth. And that's
Well-
from going forward.
I've said a number of times, Catherine, I've got a handful of years on you, but on a political level, my generation of politicians has like not done a good job. Okay?
Yeah.
Across the board, both sides, take no prisoners. But I will say this, the people that are in their 20s have a different kind of consciousness and are looking
Yes.
more at the truth of things. And I'm very impressed with what they are seeing and how they
Yeah.
look at things. The other day, we were at an event, a social event, and we were talking to this girl that's 17, is with her dad, and this girl is very conscious and was talking about things like she could see right through the lack of integrity of like TikTok and the stuff that we know that are algorithms that program. She was talking about more, and she, for a 17-year-old, was so conscious, and the things that she was able to so clearly articulate, and the wisdom of this young lady at that age. Now, Audrey wants to have her on her show coming up, and her dad will allow her to do it because she was impressive. And
That's awesome. Yes, they're very high
Absolutely.
beings that have come in for sure, because
Right.
that's the level of frequency that we're going to be vibrating at, or we're beginning to vibrate at already. And it's going to happen faster and faster and faster. In fact, you said, "What do you see?" And I heard something about psychic children. There's just more inundation of seeing psychic children,
Right.
children who see, children who know, children who speak the truth. And by children, I mean the youth, the young ones coming
Yes.
in. These souls are inundating the planet because the time is now. The shift
Right.
is now for the earth. And it's only escalating. I was telling you on the phone, I watched part of that Christmas movie, The Holiday, the other night, and it seemed so slow. The
Right.
pace was so slow. And just a few years ago when it came out, I think it was in the early 2000s it came out. I don't think it was in the 90s. I could be wrong, but I think
No, it was in the
2000s.
2000s. It's about 13
It
years
seemed
old.
like a normal movie, like 2012 or something.
Right.
And now I watch it and it was like, oh my God, it's like so slow,
Right.
you know?
Right. Well,
The
and
way
the
they
other thing,
spoke, the communication, all of it.
right. And everything is moving so much faster. People's attention spans are so much shorter now.
Yeah.
And,
Nobody
and,
reads really.
and information is moving very quickly.
And then there's the whole AI thing coming in. And that's really going to be big and strong.
It's big, but it's got to be done in the right way in the right hands.
Well, that's
Otherwise,
what I'm saying. We have to learn how to use it because it reminds me of Atlantis. We just get so powerful and then destroy ourselves. Like,
Right. Right.
yeah, that's
Well-
a sketchy area.
The other thing that, on a very material level is that finance is going to be very different. How we use, and it's not scary. Like there's a big faction of the population that's afraid of crypto and Bitcoin and all that. This is way more sophisticated than that. We have a lot of changes ahead for us, and everything will move faster. Look, when we get to this coming June, we get the first incarnation of the Saturn-Neptune alignment, which is going to reveal a lot. It's going to take down smoke screens and create a reality, like it or not, whatever the circumstances are, a lot is going
Yeah.
to get revealed. And then we get it again in
Yeah.
February of 26. So it's something for you and me. It's like, yeah, I want to see what comes out. I want to know.
Well,
this.
it's been coming out, as you know, over the few years recently. But there's I just got an email from a friend who follows these things the other day about trafficking and Guatemala and a whole bunch of stuff. So
Right.
stuff, and it was government level and, stuff being revealed, coming out.
Look, I know that people don't want to look at things that are heinous, but when I was younger, I used to do more paracriminology work. I got to a point where I don't want to do that anymore because I have to
Yeah.
experience really ugly things. But the whole thing about trafficking and all that, I worked on a case, and that was in 95 or 96. So that kind of stuff has been going on.
Yeah.
And it is
But you said coming down, being revealed,
right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's a good thing. Maybe it doesn't mean that people have to have their noses rubbed in it where they have to look at it like that. But when things come to consciousness, that's how problems can be solved. As long
Well,
as
that's
people,
what I was saying. There's going to be a lot of darkness, but we're going to see it as light
right,
because
right.
it's time. It needs to heal. It's like lancing a boil.
As you know, Audrey and I as therapists, Catherine, we are dealing with dissociation at an all-time high.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
that
So
never happened.
Jonathan is an acupuncturist and he is taught a technique called depossession. And he said he's getting a lot of clients, he's treating them for depossession, and that just means a thought form. They are fixated on a dark negative reality and they're so stressed out. And he does this
Right.
treatment with needles and it shifts them and they feel so much better.
Right.
But they were fixated on, the politics, for example, the recent election, and just
Sure.
horrified and freaked out and scared the world was ending, like all kinds of stuff. And he would do his thing with the needles and they feel better because they're just fixated on a negative thought form about
Right.
the world.
Catherine, in the few minutes that we have left, and so before the election, and I mean weeks, a couple months before the election, my spirit guides said to me, the problem isn't with the candidates. They said it's with the people. And they are fearing the wrong candidate will get elected. That's what they told me. It was very clear how they said it. Now, if people are fearful that for them the wrong candidate is elected, how do people deal with that so they're not running around like Chicken Little, like the sky is falling? Because we all know that fear is so destructive and erosive.
How do we not run around like Chicken Little? Well, get some healing work. First of all, if you are literally possessed of a thought form that you can't stop, like a loop, like an anxiety thought or something, and it's penetrating your consciousness to the point where it's like in your cells or something, one would need to get some assistance and help. The thing is, they don't know that's a problem. They just think they're thinking correctly. They're thinking right. I'm concerned about the world and life, and I have to be concerned and I have to do my part. But if your part is anxious and divisive and fearful, that's not helping the planet at all, or the world, or even the country, So get yourself centered and get yourself balanced and get yourself in harmony with peace and calm and awareness and some kind of equipoise, balance, and then start to recognize the microcosm of the macrocosm, the bigger picture, and take an eagle eye view and fly out a little bit and realize you're here for a blip in time. Your life is very short, but your soul is forever. You have eternity. So let's get things in perspective here and slow down, calm down, see an energy healer, have a treatment or something. Get outside, get your feet on the earth and connect to you, your center, your soul, and then worry about the rest of the world. Because what you do here affects that. You ripple out your vibration, your aura, with how you vibrate.
Right. So, in other words, like say there's areas on the earth where there are clashes going on right now. And let's say this person is not related, has no interest in any of the parties involved, but they watch the news and they're worried about it, okay? And so their energy field is doing this, okay? What effect, if any, are they having on that situation that is thousands of miles away?
Just throwing more anxiety at it.
Okay.
Disturbing, attributing. And well, that's why, fear consciousness reigns in our culture from the top down, right? Keep them in fear, keep them thinking the worst. And that affects the whole, we all affect each other. We're like one big organism, and it's like a hive mind in a way. Humans, we are interconnected, like it or not, we are. We are consciousness and we are connected as one unit, but we believe we're separate.
One last thought. We're going to run over a hair. We talk about the aura, we talk about the chakras, but on the hara line, the line of intentionality, there's a point above the navel called the core star. And that's where our connected consciousness is. So
Yes.
how do people...
Sit in core star. Sit in your core star and expand it out. There's a healing that Barbara taught called the core star healing. And you connect with your core star, which is here, and you just sit. I'll just demonstrate it for you. It looks like this when you get into core star. And it's a state of such bliss and joy that no negativity can emanate from you or come into you. So you just expand it. It's a beautiful golden white light. And you use your hands and you lift your energy up and out and out and out and out. And you start to just know that you are pure light and love and peace and compassion, self-love and love for all that is in creation. And you can see it and feel it vibrating through you. And I always smile. I can't not smile when I do this because it's like, wah! And when you get in that state, nothing can harm you or touch you or hurt you.
I must tell you, I felt that.
Bliss.
I felt that.
You felt it.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
All You're
right.
welcome.
That was really cool.
So try to sit in core star and let it expand
Exactly.
out. And if you send that to the world and the issues, you don't go into direct places like I'm going to send love to this dark hole on the planet
Right.
because there's enough dark energy there that doesn't want that
Right.
and will follow that thread and you can get whacked, back.
Exactly.
It's better to hold the whole planet in light with your intention.
One thing I have found, and I think you too, that there are people that are taking my healing classes, but they don't intend on being healers, but they are classes of higher consciousness. And so
Yeah.
they are better for taking those classes, even though they have
Absolutely.
no intention of being facilitators. So if you're out there thinking about, well, how can I feel better? Seek out on the East Coast, Catherine, any of her associates. Out here, our institution teaches multi-levels of classes in the healing process. And you feel better by doing that.
Absolutely. Learn how to manage your own energy field. Understand that you are an energetic being.
Yeah.
That's your anatomy.
Exactly.
Learn it, understand it, learn how to manage it, how to relate with it, be conscious of it and aware of it, and you can change your life
Right.
as well as those around you just by rippling out who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On that note, which is a great note, we are going to say goodnight to everyone. Catherine, thank you so much for coming on to the
Thank
show.
you, Nick.
Really
It was
appreciate
great
you.
to be back.
And thank you again weeks ago for being on the anniversary show. That was an amazing event.
That was great.
We look
Yeah.
forward to the next time you're in California, and hopefully we get together with you and Jonathan socially, but also have you at the Newmont Center because people love when you come to our institution. And wish you and Jonathan a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
And
You
for
and
everyone-
Audrey as well.
Thank you very much. And for those of you at home, I think Audrey and I will check in one more time with a show that we will do combined. But in the meantime, very all happy holidays to everyone. And as always, do take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. You have you and only you, and you come first. Remember that. So
It starts with you.
exactly. So we're going to say goodnight. Thank you to everyone for watching, Catherine for being with us, and we will see you soon here on Mainstream Metaphysics or Conscious Mind Tripping. And we are in the studios of Conejo Valley Talk Radio with the one and only Ed Hunt manning this institution, which we are very grateful for. All right, everyone, have a good night. We appreciate you. See you soon. Bye.